Hey, divorcing gracefully sisters. Hello, hello. It is Saturday. Katie, can you believe we're in here on a Saturday? That's kind of like not. We're
I
usually.
know. That's how exciting this is.
I know.
That
It
is
is
how exciting this is.
Saturday. Yay! And for those of you who are going to be joining us today, as well as listening to the replay later, Katie and I are really just excited to be here with you and want to just welcome everybody in. And I'm just hitting some comments here. Give me 1 second while we're just waiting for this to go up. Alrighty. So guys, we're here on a Saturday. We have Coach Katie, and Katie thought both of us were talking. Many of you who've been through Divorcing Gracefully and Beyond have obviously worked with me, and we've done a lot of great work together. But there may be many of you who haven't met Rockstar Mindset Coach Katie.
So happy to be here.
Yes, yeah. Oh, I think I'm losing my stream. Can you hear me? There we go. All right. It looks like the video is going in and out. But what we thought we would do today is share a little bit of our story, share a little bit of our wins and successes. And, as July 1st is coming up around the corner with the Optimize Your Passion, Life, and Love program beginning and launching, we just thought it would be a really good time to kind of come in, chat, and be here to answer any questions. So Katie, I'm going to leave it up to you let's just start. What was the whole reasoning we're kind of talking about this?
There's so much that goes into shifting your life, right? And the Divorcing Gracefully and Beyond program is amazing and awesome at getting you out of survival mode.
Right.
Survival or stuck mode.
Yeah.
Or both. Sometimes it's both.
Right.
But it gives you everything you need to get out of that. Right. And you could go on about your life with that and implementing it, and you continue to implement it. You're good to go. You have everything you need for an amazing life.
Correct.
Divorce. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet we find at the same time that I'm starting to, let me just say, I just spent the last 6 months living with my parents.
Oh my goodness.
And while I love them, there's a saying in the Awakening Shakti book that if you're on the path to enlightenment, or you think you're on the path to enlightenment, go spend a week with your parents.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I spent like the last 9 months with them, and I love them. And realizing that when everyone around you is in a different mindset than you,
yeah,
it's really hard to hold your mindset, right?
Yep.
I think we tend to vibrate towards or move towards the mindset of the majority around us. And not that you can't hold your mindset, it just takes a lot more effort. You start doubting yourself and go, am I the only one crazy one here? Because everyone else is seeing it this way.
Yep.
But when you have a community that is in the same wavelength, the same mindset, the same like supporting you, you're going to vibrate up.
Yeah.
And it's going to be so much less effort. And the amount of change, like everyone who's in this alumni group saw, experienced, felt the amount of change that could happen in 12 weeks.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing that most of you, that's not where you want to stop. Like, yes, you feel like you can live again, and you have dreams. You have more that your soul is calling you to do in the world. And you can continue to make that progress to head towards your dreams at such a faster rate. And it's not just about where you want to go, it's about how you want to go about doing it.
I love that
it's more fun to have a community of women supporting you and celebrating you and cheering you on.
Because Katie, let's go back to our original chosen careers, right? Chosen careers, you as a clinical psychologist, me as a clinical social worker, you and I could probably say that we've had our share of women, families, men, right? Because I worked with both genders, of people who will remain stuck for the rest of their life, right? And we see that I used to see that every day until Divorce and Gracefully and Beyond, where there's this opportunity to move through rapid transformation. And I know you've done work on yourself, right? You've done this coaching work. You've been part of coaching communities, and I've been part of a coaching community. And I think for me, the most valuable thing is what you said, is when you were living with your parents, keeping your mindset in a place of a high level. You could do it. It just was a lot more work because you're now having to generate like double or triple the amount of energy. And when we're doing it alone, it becomes tiresome, right? It becomes heavy.
Yeah.
And when we
lonely.
And lonely.
Lonely.
Right? And when we plug in to a sisterhood or a community or a vibrational level of frequency, even if we're struggling still, or even if we have a little bit of the gap. Sorry, my video. Can you hear me okay?
I can still hear you, yeah.
Okay, my video was like acting strange. But even though there's a gap, there's something that's called the draft, right? So even on those days or those months or those weeks where, you know, things are difficult, or we have difficult people around us, or we're plopped back in our normal world with people who annoy us. And it could be the lady who sits next door to us, who's in the next office, who we have to work with every day, right? And even in those moments where we're not able to necessarily generate enough of our own energy, we could hijack the energy of the group, right? Mm-hmm. Spiritual hijacking. And it's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing, right? So let's talk about that. What is this thing called mindset? Why is it so important? Why is it so important to have continued generation of this energy? What would you say to that?
Yeah, Donna, I am still grappling with what this thing called mindset is.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't have a definition for it, but it's like, it's pretty much, it's the opposite of everything that gets you stuck. It's what allows everything else to flow.
Yep.
Like, it's almost like you know it when you're in it, right? Of when you've made that shift and you feel it, everything's easier and it flows. But when you're still, you know, grappling with mindset things, there's resistance and there's struggle and there's drama.
Yeah, there is drama. And I think I was getting my nails done today because Becca's graduating tomorrow, which I can't believe. We have her graduation ceremony. And I was getting my nails done, and I was reading this book by Florence Scovel Shinn. And she's an amazing author, amazing. And one of the things that she was talking about in the book is we are always moving towards something or away from something, right? We're always growing, or we're always going backwards. And that's the biggest stealer of our joy, is not being in the present moment, right? Is constantly looking at, I have to be here, or I just come from there. And I think, to me, that's what mindset is. Mindset enables me to understand that I am the creator and I am the manifester of my life, and that anything is possible, and that I can put my intention and know that the mindset piece, as I'm working on it, is going to help me move towards it, but I get to enjoy the present moment of the day. And I get, instead of constantly hustling, I get to enjoy the present moment. And I know for myself that when I first began my coaching work and when I delved into coaching myself, that was the beginning for me. It has been a lifelong journey and the evolution of myself. And as I learned a little bit more, then I was able to take it to the next level. And I learned a little bit more, and I was able to take it to the next level. And I really look at where there were times in my life where I couldn't anticipate the wobbles, because we just don't know what we don't know. But I thank God every single day that I was in a community that was able to support me and give me the foundation. So all the work that I did wasn't crumbled, right? It was it enabled me to actually practice in vivo all of the work and all the cultivation that I was doing. Where in the past, that could have taken me back, like a long ways back.
So can I ask you a question that I am sure is on the minds of like every DG woman that's gone through the program? Because they look at you and they're like, oh my God, she's just always so positive. Like Donna, right? And it's hard to not see that as not part of your personality. So I'm wondering if you could speak to a little bit where you were and how programs like this really helped you.
That's a good question. So my journey started many years ago when I had married my high school sweetheart, right? And I think many of you who, in the alumni group know this, is that I married my high school sweetheart. I never thought we'd be divorced because, obviously that's I believe in marriage. I love the sanctity in marriage. I appreciate a partnership. And so when I ended up in that space, what ended up happening is right as I was going through it, it was chaos, like pure chaos. And what ended up happening is I'm looking for support. It's almost like you're drowning and you're looking for some sort of air. The only thing I can see is to get some air is which way the bubbles are. And I'm just following the bubbles up. I don't even know where I am and what I'm doing. And as I was looking for support, what I just found is everywhere I went, there was, I went to my lawyer and my lawyer's like, we're going to fight him. We're going to nail him to the wall. And it was like a fight. I would go at work and they'd be like, he's such a freaking scumbag. He's this, he's that, da, da, da. It would be another fight. I would go to a support group at church thinking, okay, maybe these are my peeps. Maybe this is where it is. And they're worse. Like they were worse. And I ended up looking at myself going, no, I can't. This is not what I need. I'm not saying that my ex-husband didn't deserve justice for his actions, but I knew that I wasn't going to be the one to carry those out, that I knew enough to know that that's God's territory, not mine, and that if I was carrying around those emotions and those toxicities and those feelings, that's what my life would be like, right? If I'm hanging around this type of mindset. And so when I began to create my own mindset, that's how Divorcing Gracefully and Beyond got started, is I created, because there wasn't one available, I had this God moment that said, Donna, you need to lead this. Like, this is your start. And that's how it started. And then fast forward to post-divorce, I had a 7-year span where I was struggling. And that's another reason why Divorcing Gracefully and Beyond has been created. And I've invested my entire life to help people that don't have to take the 10 to 20 year span that I did to figure it out. That we now have, we can now put it into a 3-month span, believe it or not. But I was in a space where I was feeling hopeless. I did feel like I would never love again. I did feel that all the guys out there, I was attracting every asshole possible. I felt like I was dating this one person who I thought was it, only to realize I just attracted my ex-husband over because he was a narcissist. He was cheating. It was all the same. It was like the same person. I thought he was a totally different person because here's this person that comes into my life. I'm trying to do the work. And here's the difference, Katie, is I wasn't doing the work. I said I was doing it, but I wasn't doing it. So I said I was
doing it. You didn't have that mirror.
I didn't have the community to help me. I didn't have the community. I'm the one that's trying to do this on my own. Even though I'm out and I'm surrounding myself, but this was the beginning, right? I began to surround myself with people who were spiritually evolved. I began to seek out the people who were living the life that I wanted. I no longer wanted to look at what I didn't want because I was surrounded by marriages and I was surrounded by divorce and I was surrounded by women who didn't appreciate their husbands or didn't appreciate, if they were divorced, they hated their exes, right? And it wasn't even like it was graceful. It was a hate. It was a venom. And what I began to see was I was having conversations with women and they're like, yeah, and they're talking and they're so angry and they're just filled with anger and I was like, wow, my gosh, you just got divorced like when? Last year? And they're like, no, 20 years ago. And I'm thinking, oh my God, like that cannot be me. Right? That cannot be me. However, it kind of was me because I was still carrying around the anger. I was still carrying around the baggage because I didn't have a community. I didn't have anyone to guide me. Right? And so what ended up happening though was as I began to figure out, wait a minute, I can't do this alone. This is not something I can do alone because number one, I don't know what I don't know. And number two, I'm using all the wrong reference points because what the law of the universe is, which I know now, is we don't focus on what we don't want. We have to only focus on what we do want. And you could be the smartest woman in the world. You could be the most intelligent woman in the world. And I would say that, Katie, that ultimately, I mean, I have more of a glass half full type of personality to begin with, but it doesn't keep me immune to the struggle and the heart soul fracture and the feelings that really could take you down and struggle a lot. And but what I realized is you could be as smart, you could be intelligent, you could have all the resources, the money, you could have everything. But if you don't have the community that's going to keep you focused on the outcome and keep that continuity going, because when you stop, you stop.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of like, I like to say you can't paint the house while the porch is on fire, right? So when you're in the middle of it, like that's not the time to create. So the first 12 weeks of Divorcing Gracefully and Beyond, we're putting out the fire in the house. But that's not the time to create. But now we get to create. Now our brain's in the right space and we get to create. And this is the most important time, is when you're healthy, when you're happy, when you're feeling good. Because now, if and when you have the struggles that come along the way, you're prepared for it, you're ready for it, and you can move through it. And I think, to me, that was the critical shift in my life. And I said this story many times for those of you who have heard it, or maybe you haven't heard it, but when I was at that point, Katie, and I sat down on my living room floor, and I put my knees, and I literally went down to the ground. And I didn't have a concept necessarily at that point. I believed in God, but I didn't really have a relationship. There's no concept, this whole universe thing. I had no science background. I was in the struggle. And this is post-divorce, right? So this is not as it was happening, this is post, is when I just put my hands up to God and said, God, I cannot do this anymore. I know enough to know that I have a great job. I got all the pieces together there, but this relationship thing and how my family is running, I don't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. And it was at that moment where my mom kind of knocked on the door. She just happened to stop over, and she's like, all these women in my book club are reading this book called The Secret. I think you should read it. And that was the beginning of what I would call my spiritual journey. Mm. But it was at that moment too that I realized that the value of having, again, a coach and a community was priceless to me. And when I say I didn't have $1 in my bank account, I didn't have $1 in my bank account, because it was tied up and there were other things that were going on. But I invested in a $9,000 coaching program. Now at the time, that $9,000 might as well have been $1 million. Like honestly, it might as well have been $1 million, because but I knew that was my seed in a sense. That was what I knew. And I thank God every day that I figured it out, because it's enabled me to really sort of shorten the refractory period. And that's why I love what I do. And I think that's probably why you love what you do, is that the refractory period from devastation, turning your battlefields into your blessing fields, we could change that refractory period in such a small time versus 7 years, 10 years time. Does that make sense? I hope I wasn't like rambling, but.
No, that makes so much sense. And I just want to reflect a few points of like, we're here, and I don't know about you, Donna, but I don't ask anyone to do what I haven't been willing to do myself.
Me too.
Leaders go first. And so this is Donna and me really, really showing you that you don't, we're not these magical creatures that figure,
Speak for yourself, Katie. I'm magical. Like I'm magical.
You are magical.
No, I'm only kidding.
Magical. And,
but you're right. Yes.
And reclaiming your magic is it's helpful to have others that can, one, reflect your magic back to you, because sometimes it's really hard to see it ourselves.
Yes. And also see the magic that you don't even know, because I could look at you and I could say, Katie, here's the brilliance in you. Do you see it? And you could be like, I never thought of that. Holy shit. Like, I didn't even know like that's possible for me.
Ricky just did that for me this morning. Mm. She was like, we had a mindset call this morning, and she was like, I don't know if I should share this or not, because I didn't ask her to share it, but she just reflected back to me that, like, when I did the Thursday mindset call with the inner circle group, that I said, yeah, but in a way that created space and slowed people down. And it's something that I didn't realize that I that I did. You know, like to just create space to slow down and feel.
Yes. That's a good point that you made, Katie, because I think so many of us do everything we can to avoid the feeling in the past until we come here to DG and beyond and we realize we don't have to be afraid of the feeling and we don't have to avoid the feeling. That when you allow yourself to feel the feeling, then it can move through you.
Yeah.
You can be done with it.
And to have a space where that can be held.
Yep.
Lovingly and without judgment, and by other people who get it and get you and have got you. Like, that's priceless.
I almost feel it's, you know, when we talk about the vortex,
yeah,
that we have this vortex, and truly what we experience, but it's also scientifically proven, right? This energy, this vortex is something magical, and it is something beautiful. And there's so many times that I think that's when you leave a vortex and you're on your own, in a sense, that's where a lot of wobbling could occur. What do you think? What's been your journey?
So that's my journey has been, you know, I've struggled a lot more around the parenting and divorce piece. You know, that was a big part of what led to our, like, it wasn't the root of it, but the symptoms of it, right, came out in our parenting, because I have two highly sensitive boys, and I didn't realize how highly sensitive I was. I had no idea of the extent until probably the last year and a half or so. And there's probably even more layers to that I'm still excavating. And my husband is highly sensitive. So we basically had 4 highly sensitive people.
Wow, I didn't know your husband was highly sensitive.
Who didn't know or own they were highly sensitive. And it was like, just like shooting bullets and bouncing off the walls at each other. Like none of us knew how to handle it. And so, you know, in January, I was terrified to move back to Virginia in the summer. Like now, I just moved back last weekend. I was terrified in January. So much so I was like, I don't know if I can handle my boys on my own. Because we're talking like some really significant physical aggressive behaviors. And I'm a psychologist, and I have lots of skills and lots of tools. And I made my peace a while ago that, like, most other kids, I would be a phenomenal parent to. I did not know how to parent my kids because I never learned what I needed, because I didn't get it from my parents. Right. They didn't know. How to parent me. No judgment there. They didn't know. And so I joined a parent coaching boot camp program similar to this, but with parents for highly sensitive kids. And I tell you what, I had all the pieces. I had like my intuition, my resources. I'm great at that. I had all the pieces, and I couldn't implement. Right? I couldn't implement because all the mindset stuff. Like I went to every mindset coaching call that they offered. They had a weekly mindset call, and then they had another Q&A call, kind of like you have, but you could also do a mindset room in. And so I went to the mindset room twice a week, because my mindset is what I needed the most.
And I think it's also the level of accountability that's put in.
Accountability and the like mindset plus action.
Because think about it, if you didn't put yourself in that framework, right? If you didn't say, because it wasn't like what they were teaching you wasn't something that you haven't seen before or heard before. Maybe there was different ways, because when we deal with a highly sensitive child or a person, there may be different techniques and things that we use. But overall, I'm sure you're familiar with most things. Yeah. But when you put yourself in that framework, what it does is it gives you the permission to say, wait a minute, during this time period, I'm going to go to this every week. I'm going to put myself here every week. And because it's the accountability piece. Otherwise, you would probably say, I won't speak for you, but I'll speak for myself. I'll say, okay, so let's say I wanted to work on, a manifestation of some sort. There's something that I want to create. I could say, great, I'll create it. Okay, this week I'm going to put it, I'm going to do it. And if I don't have accountability, there's a 50-50 chance that it's going to get done.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's
probably less than a 50-50 chance for me.
Probably, yeah.
I don't exercise unless it's with like a group, like a soccer team.
That's exactly it. Because when you're accountable, and that's how we created the Optimize Your Passion, Life, and Love program, right? Is the accountability piece is that every other week, basically 3 weeks out of the month, you're tapped in, tuned on, and turned on, right? Like you're in the vortex. You're there to have accountability. You're there to create. You're there to learn. Just like you said about the parenting program.
Yeah, and so I finished that in March.
Yeah.
And I've noticed I've been able to maintain it, even with remote schooling and my mom sliding back. My mom actually did the program with me. Talk about some incredible healing. But she started to slide back into my dad's mindset, and I could feel it and see it. So like I really had to hold my own, and I was able to maintain it, but I wasn't and have not been able to go farther, to go from surviving and getting out of the stuck to thriving and flourishing and, like you said, creating the home and the family life that I know is possible. The magic.
Yes. Well, there's like,
and so I'm investing in that coaching program for their 12-month thing, because they do a similar thing. Like, because that's what I need. That's the parenting piece that I need. That's going to help me keep my mindset, the accountability.
It's kind of like a house, don't you think? It's kind of like a house.
It is like a house.
Blueprints. First, you have to figure out what kind of house do I want, where are the rooms, right? And then it's actually taking action to create the blueprint, and then it's creating the foundation, and then you get to build your house and do the rooms and decorate. And this is the beauty and the fun of life, is that we get to do this. And we get to do it luxuriously a little bit with some time, right? So it's because you and I both know that we could say we want to do this, this, and this, and we could go out and do it. But if we don't give ourselves time to actually allow time to catch up with our ideas and stuff, and then when it comes up, to be able to work through it and move through it. I mean, I don't know, but I sometimes decorate a room to realize, maybe I need to move the couch here, or maybe that throw pillow should, or do I really like this paint color? When we get to do that with our life.
Yeah. And upkeep it too. Like sometimes things change and shift, and you're like, this doesn't fit me anymore.
I'm just going to do a self kind of, I guess, disclosure. I get lazy. And I'm not going to say lazy as in my intention, but I tend to be a very focused person, or when I have time, I tend to, my drive isn't quite there. I could be very happy sitting on the beach and spending days and hours just lazy. And it doesn't mean, again, that it's unproductive, because I could be reading or doing some things. But unless I have a structure and accountability and a team of people around me, I may not do the homework, or I may not necessarily do what I know needs to get done in order to get through. Yeah.
I mean, have I rewatched one module since March? Or one thing? No. Right. And for me, it's not lazy. It's losing focus. It's falling into that old mindset of the stuff that needs done on the daily, and losing sight of the big picture.
Yes.
And if I'm not really clear with setting my intentions and don't have a structure for like voicing my intentions out in the world,
right,
anchoring them in for the week, maybe even for the day, depending on what's going on, I lose focus.
And I think that's why probably companies like Weight Watchers are so successful, is because they have the person, they have the focus, right? The person may follow through. They may end up losing the weight or following an eating plan, and then they know that when that person leaves that community, right, they may not follow through, right? And so that account is always open for you. Could always come back, and there's always sending you emails like, come back, because they know the psychology of a human being, and they know the psychology of the human condition, right? And they know that it's been 30, 40, 50, 60 years that you've been conditioned to operate in a certain way, and Weight Watchers has you for 8 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever it is, 4 months that you choose. And what they know is the human condition is that when you leave that sort of network, that the focus is off and other things come in the way, right?
And,
so, yeah.
And we all need maintenance, right?
Everybody.
You go get your teeth cleaned twice a year. You go to the doctor at least once a year. Like, you maintain other aspects of your life.
I love my maintenance. I will always work with a coach. I will always work, because my maintenance is so critically important. Because number one, what I like to do is I like to look at people who are living the quality of life that I admire, not envy. I want to be clear, because I look at the quality of life someone is going after. I look at the level of where they're living and how they're operating in this world, and their level of authenticity and courage and bravery, right? All of the pieces that we need. And every single one of those people have a team of people around them. Every single one. And they're some of the most smartest, intelligent, brilliant people in this world, but they have a team. Because it's the value and it's keeping going. Because here's what I would love to do here at DG Beyond, is not only equip everybody, every sister, with the tools, like through the 12-week program, you have everything you need, right? That's great and that's awesome. But what's better is when you don't have to slide back, and the refractory period isn't as big, and we don't have to be the Weight Watchers model where we're doing it, we're sliding back, we're doing it, we're sliding back, we're doing it, and we're sliding back. That's exhausting. Where we're moving in a continuity path, right? And there may be slight adjustments because you may leave the track, but you get right back on track and you move on, and we get rid of the ups and the downs, right? And the starting and the stopping. It's the continuity and the going and the refinement of it, of what we're learning.
Yeah.
I like what you said about focus, though. That's going to stick with me. Because we could lose focus so easily.
So easily, especially I think that's one of the mindset things, right? At least for me, is putting other people's needs, especially kids, before my own.
Mm.
And there's still a tendency to slide back into that, especially when they're sick or they're having a hard time, and it's helpful to have that community to hold me back and be like, whoa, where's your self-care? How are you doing with, taking your breaks? Make sure you do your mindfulness, your meditation, starting the day.
Today, I have to tell you, today was a wobbly day for me. My mindset wanted to go in the shitter, and I kid you not, it wanted to be in the shitter probably 80% of the day today. And what I wanted to do is go back to bed. What I wanted to do is not go out and do my mindset work. What I wanted to do is, when my daughters and my niece came over and said, let's go out to lunch, I wanted to say, I'm not going because I don't feel like it. I don't want to talk. I'm not in the mood. I have a headache and I'm tired. And there's no apparent reason that I could say that what the correlation is. It could be the moon. It could be the weather. It could be something I ate. It could be my hormones. I don't know. It's just this sort of feeling, right? And what I know enough now to know is that it's not a fact, it's a feeling. And even though I feel it, what I chose to do is get up and get dressed. And what I chose to do is listen to my soundtrack of awesome. And what I chose to do was get into my journal and just to be there. What I chose to do was go out to lunch with my nieces and my daughters. And I knew it enough in myself, but I also tapped into my coaching group and said, I'm having a tough day. Like, I'm struggling. And everyone's, what could be great about this? Where, when you're seeing the contrast, like what are you learning? What's the gift here? And it's amazing how just having those questions pop up for me brought me right back on track.
Yeah. And you connected with your community. You reached out.
Mm-hmm.
You're willing to be seen in a not great day.
Not a great day. Because guess what? We don't have great days every day. But we could have joy in spite of the circumstances. And that's That is truly the gift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that takes practice.
And that's the whole point.
You got to do your reps.
What we're talking about, yeah.
Doing your reps.
If I didn't get my reps in, I was listening to this guy, David Goggins, yesterday. He's amazing. Amazing. And if anyone has a chance to hear his story, I think he wrote a book called You Can't Break Me, or Nothing Could Hurt Me, something like that. But if you look up David Goggins, he is known as like the world's strongest man. He's like an ultra marathoner. He's a Navy SEAL. His story is amazing. And who you wouldn't have known, like he wrote a book, not because he wanted to write a book. He wrote a book because he didn't know how to read. He was reading at a 4th grade level, and he had to teach himself how to read. That's how he got into writing this book and to be seen. But, one of the things that, that David Goggins was kind of talking about was, this ability of having an honest conversation with yourself, right? And the softening, because a lot of times we say, oh, I'm okay. Okay. And it's not like you're not okay, but you're not where you want to be. And I think sometimes we allow that to be okay. We allow that to soften, and we do sort of miss out on what could be the best parts of our life, because we may go back into habit. Does that make sense? And we may go back into a little bit of the stagnation and a little bit of the familiarity of where we've come. But what, he was saying, he's like, you got to get your reps in, the mindset work and the continuity, you got to get your reps in, because that's the important part. And I would say that's what we got to do. We got to get our reps in.
Yeah. And what, it's the neurons too, like what fires together, wires together. That's the reps of, doing it again and again and again. Every time you're building those neural pathways, you're
and creating them, right? Because you've had 12 weeks to do the foundation, and now you really get to take those neural pathways that you created, keep yourself plugged in to the energy, the mindset. Because I don't know about you, Katie, but what we're going to be doing this year is also just as important for me in what I'm creating and where I'm stepping into, and in this whole level of being able to co-create with all of us together. Like, it's going to be magical. Yeah. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be fun, right? We're talking big shit stuff, like really taking it to the next level. So anyway, I know we're a little over time because we said 5:30, so we're at 5:37. What I would say is, if you're ready to join Optimize Your Life, Your Passion, Life, and Love, take it from Katie and I. Both of us have been through years of training. We've both done our own personal development work, and everybody that we know and where just success, we have the human condition, and we need to be tapped in. We need to be in the right community, because when we go back to the regular people who are in our lives, we go back to the regular struggles in our lives, it tends, there's wobbles there. So come join us. It's gonna be
play and celebrate with you and support you and cheer you on and magic
and create, right? And to just the magical part of life. And so I just can't wait. I just cannot wait to do the work. So is there anything you'd like to say before we close? And if you want, and if you're ready to join us on this magical journey, just send an email to me at Dona@DonaRudowitz.com, or you can send it to Andy at DonaRudowitz.com. You can send it to Katie, Kati, right, at DonaRudowitz.com. Just let us know that you're ready. We're starting July 1st. Yeah. Anything else you want to add before we close?
That was just it. That was my question. You just answered it.
Yep. All right, Chickalinas. Have an amazing rest of the Saturday. Katie, it was so good to see you. So good to chat. We got to do this more often.
Yes, we could totally do this more often.
I'm going to end. I'll see you later. And Katie, hang on here. When I end, I'll be right with you, okay?